I still remember the day I thought my dreams were over. Standing there at Atlanta International Airport, only 17, blood trickling from my wrists as I was pulled away in handcuffs. I could hear the whispers of disbelief echoing in my ears as strangers turned their backs. It was surreal. How could this happen to me? I was just a kid with dreams bigger than the clouds. Growing up, I believed in the goodness of people. My mother taught me to stand tall, to never let prejudice dim my shine. But when the moment came, I was denied my seat in first class, not because of who I was, but simply because of how I looked. It felt as though the ground had opened up beneath me. All those years of hard work, every late night study session, all the sacrifices, and for what? To be treated like I didn't belong. The stares of bystanders, their silence crushed me. I felt trapped, like I was fighting an invisible enemy, a wave of doubt crashing over my resolve. And yet, it wasn't just about me anymore. In that chaotic moment, as fear and humiliation intertwined, I had the choice to let this define me or to become something more. With the courage inspired by my late mother and the unwavering support of my father Xavier, a self-made CEO who spent his life battling against injustices, I chose to fight back not just for myself, but for every kid with dreams just like mine. This is not just my story. This is the story of transformation, resilience, and a fight for justice that reverberates far beyond the walls of that terminal. Buckle up, because this journey is about to take flight. I remember the moment clarity shattered into a million pieces. 1 minute I was just a girl, a normal 17-year-old with dreams bigger than the skies, my heart racing for that scholarship interview in first class. The next, I was in the midst of a nightmare. "Excuse me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I stood in front of Heather Donovan. "That's my seat." I held my boarding pass tightly, a thin slip of paper that suddenly felt like a lifeline. Her eyes flicked over me, skinny and uncertain. "First class is for paying customers, sweetheart." She snapped a smirk, dancing at the corners of her lips, the smug satisfaction of someone who held the power. All around me I heard snickers, whispers, judgments. "Is she really trying to sit there?" One woman muttered, a bemused smile stretching across her face. How embarrassing! The laughter burrowed into my chest and twisted a cruel grip on everything I believed about myself. Even the people who could have stepped in chose silence, their eyes sliding away. I felt small, and not just from the condescension stinging my skin. A relentless tide of doubt began to wash over me. What good was it to fight against giants if no one threw me a rope? Then I snapped. "I'm not leaving." I declared, the tremble in my voice igniting a glow of defiance. "You'll have to drag me out of here." But they did drag me away from whispers and judgment, away from my dreams, my dignity, everything I had worked so hard for, arranged in a line behind me, abruptly collapsing. The handcuffs dug into my wrists, a cruel reminder of the betrayal, not just from Heather, but from the countless eyes that turned away, a tide of disbelief that turned into a chasm of isolation. In that chaos, something shifted within me, a flicker of resolve amid the humiliation. I may have been overlooked, underestimated, but I wouldn't go quietly. I'd find a way to turn this pain into change, no matter how heavy the burden. This wouldn't be the end of my story. It would be my beginning. Things definitely took a turn for the worse. When Zoe was dragged away in handcuffs, I thought, what could possibly happen next? A surprise airstrike, but I quickly realised no, this was worse. This was the nightmare unfolding in broad daylight. Social media lit up like a fireworks show gone rogue, with hashtags flying around. Justice for Zoe. Meridian fails. As if we'd stumbled into a reality show where the stakes were the dignity of our family, not just the ratings. Meanwhile, Xavier received calls that could make any dad's hair stand on end. He raced to the airport, heart pounding like the bass from a late-night party. He was a man about to face a corporate monolith, armed only with his passion and a sprinkle of righteous anger. But as he tried to rally support, he faced pushback from board members who seemed more concerned about stock prices than about human lives. I guess empathy doesn't fit into the quarterly projections, he joked bitterly to a colleague trying to find humour in an increasingly absurd situation. As the outrage grew, the chorus of doubt began echoing through the comments sections. Did it really happen that way, someone would ask. Are you sure she wasn't in the wrong seat? Because there's nothing quite like public scrutiny to throw you into a spiral of frustration, right? It was as if the world was asking for proof that Zoe was indeed human, deserving of dignity. But here's where hope sparked amid the hysteria. Despite the setbacks, despite being told to back down, Zoe's spirit didn't waver. She sat in that crowded, sterile security office, her resolve crystallizing like ice in a drink. I won't let this define me, she thought, her fists clenched in quiet defiance. And just like that, Zoe transformed from a victim into a determined advocate, ready to rebuild from zero piece by painful piece. Because if there's one thing that's clear, you've got to weather the storm before you see the sunshine. And boy, did it feel like it was raining cats and dogs out there. The fluorescent lights in the security office cast a harsh glare on Zoe's face. She sat there, heart racing, the weight of disbelief crashing down around her. She felt alone. But something sparked within her. In that moment of despair, she lifted her chin, no more shrinking into the shadows. This wasn't just about her, it was about everyone who had ever faced injustice. She pulled out her phone. The familiar digits of her father were a lifeline, a conduit of strength. Dad, she said, her voice steady, despite the tremor inside. They can't keep us silent. Hearing that voice on the other end ignited a fire. Xavier was racing through the terminal, each step fueled by a surge of adrenaline, a father's instinct to protect driven now by the knowledge of the fight ahead. I'm on my way, Zoe. Just breathe, he replied. Determination etched into every word. As he arrived, the chaos of the airport beckoned for attention. In front of the security desk, he stood tall, a beacon of resolve amid uncertainty. There's no going back, he declared, eyes blazing with a fierce passion. This ends now. Zoe, even amid her humiliation, felt the warmth of hope seep into her being. It wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about paving a path for the countless others affected by discrimination. From that raw realization, the seeds of something powerful began to blossom. The Equal Skies Initiative. An idea sparked by a moment of weakness now becoming a movement. With every tweet, every outcry, Zoe caught the gaze of her community. They rallied behind her, a wave of unyielding support. She was not just a victim of an isolated incident. She was a warrior rising from adversity, Strength began to flow through her veins as the world shifted. She saw the faces of allies standing with her. This was more than personal. This was essential. And with each step she took toward justice, she transformed from a frightened girl into a leader. The spark was lit. No one could dim her light again. Voiceover continues with a powerful yet calm tone. As the dust settled from the chaos, the boardroom at Meridian Airlines buzzed with tension. Xavier stood at the head of the table, flanked by his team, faces pale with uncertainty as the fallout from Zoe's ordeal rippled through the industry. A stark contrast to the polished conference room, peppered with sleek designs and corporate ambitions. This was no longer just a business meeting. It was a defining moment. Today, Xavier began, his voice steady, yet laced with emotion, is about more than just our reputation. It's about standing up for what's right, what's just. The room held its breath. They were assembled not only to discuss the future of the airline, but to confront the shadow of discrimination that had darkened its reputation. Meanwhile, Zoe sat quietly beside her father, heart racing as she prepared to deliver her testimony. As she spoke of her experience, each word was infused with the raw pain of that day, the humiliation, the disbelief. The silence that followed her testimony was heavy filled, not just with sympathy, but a rallying cry for change. Months later, the headlines read, Meridian Airlines launches groundbreaking Equal Skies initiative, a symbol of their newfound commitment. Cameras flashed as Zoe and Xavier shared a firm handshake, the kind that spoke of respect earned through struggle. A quiet smirk crossed Zoe's face, that undeniable spark of triumph lighting up her eyes, a moment of realization that she had not only rewritten her story, but had begun to change the narrative for countless others. But as the applause filled the hall, she knew that victories like these don't erase the scars. They simply make them worth it, a testament to resilience, a marker of a journey forged through courage and love. The fight for justice was far from over, yet every inch gained felt like a step toward the horizon of hope. As this journey comes to a close, we must reflect on what Zoe and her father Xavier have taught us about power trust and the nature of revenge. They entered a fight not just for justice, but for the dignity that every individual deserves, no matter their background or bank account. In a world saturated with prejudice and despair, their story is a resonance of resilience and empowerment, reminding us that real change is forged through courage and connection, not vengeance. But let's ask ourselves, is revenge ever truly justified? As we witnessed Zoe's transformation from a victim to an advocate illuminated a path that many would shy away from. She could have let anger take the wheel, but instead she chose accountability and advocacy. Does that mean we should forgo our instincts for retribution in favour of justice, even when it feels particularly elusive? The legacy of Zoe and Xavier's fight asks us to reconsider how we navigate our own conflicts. Are we seeking revenge, or are we advocating for a world where equity prevails? As we close this chapter, think about the stories that need to be told, the injustices that linger unchallenged. What have you experienced that compels you to speak up? Join the conversation. Below your thoughts could inspire others to take their own first steps toward justice. Let's be the change together, because the journey to equality is never truly finished.